Let me overclick here. A few notes on controls and logistics. If you are joining through your computer's audio system and happen to experience audio or lag issues, you can try to refresh your browser or use a new browser. You can also dial in through your phone by clicking on audio settings. Please send us all your questions using the Q&A section. That's how we'll be doing questions today. Autodesk experts are standing by to answer. Lastly, this webinar is being recorded and you will receive the recording via email. So feel free to share this recording with your colleagues. We also want to remind you that we ask for safe harbor during this presentation, acknowledging that though we make statements regarding future events and development efforts for our products and services, you should make your buying decisions based on the present state of Autodesk software and services. And with that out of the way, let's talk about what's new. If you've been paying attention over the last couple of weeks to what's happening in AEC, you'll notice there's a lot going on. Of course, we have new releases for Revit and Twinmotion, which we'll be digging into today. We also have the exciting announcement that Unify Labs, the maker of popular BIM content management tools, is joining Autodesk in an acquisition soon to be finalized. And perhaps you saw over the weekend an article in the American magazine Fast Company, which shared Autodesk's role in loving support for the restoration of the Cathédrale Notre Dame. And I invite you all to check out that inspiring story, both at Fast Company and at Autodesk.com. Finally, there's big news on the path to Autodesk Forma, the AEC industry cloud that unifies teams, workflows, and data to support the future of design and construction. Autodesk's Amy Bunzel has an update on the vision for Forma, and we invite you all to register for the live online Forma launch event on May 8th. We'll put that link into the chat for you all so you can see, along with those other pieces of news as we go. Our team today consists of Revit experts who are going to be talking about what's now, what's new, and what's next in Autodesk Revit. We're really excited that you can make it today, and thank you. We know you have a lot of choices to consume content, a lot of places to go for information, and we're glad you joined us today at Autodesk. And now we want to get to know a little bit about you. So we've got a couple of poll questions that my colleague Garima is going to pull up. The first one being, we want to know about your vocation. Tell us how you would describe your vocation. What do you do? Okay, just looking at the results coming in here, we've got about 35% of you are architects, 35% of you are CAD or BIM managers, we've got engineers, we've got project managers, IT admin and project executives. You're only rounding out about 5 or 6%, but we really appreciate you coming today. We're sharing the results now so you can take a look, and then we're going to move on to the next poll question. What brought you to this webinar? Are you looking to make an upgrade? Are you considering a purchase? Just here for the eye candy, here for the community, or here for the competitive intel? You can select all of these, any of these, whatever you wish. Shout out to the folks here for the competitive intel. It's a great, big, wide AEC ecosystem out there, and we're glad we can be a part of it with you. 60% of you evaluating an upgrade. That is great because we've got some good news in terms of what this version is shipping, and we're excited to share that with you. So thank you for that. We're going to share those results right now and continue on with the show. Okay, your participation is greatly appreciated. Thanks again for taking time with the polls. And now I'm very pleased to bring up my colleague, Jeff Hansen, who's going to talk to us about what's now in Revit, covering improvements across recent releases that make Revit better fit to the demands of how you work today. Jeff is a principal content designer for Revit who has been designing and documenting Revit experiences since 2006. So he's got some perspective on how Revit has progressed with the receipts to prove it. Welcome, Jeff.
Yeah, thanks for having me here, David. I'm looking forward to sharing what's been going on with Revit over the last few releases here.
Great. And before we dive in, Jeff, tell our audience what you do at Autodesk.
So I work on learning content for primarily the architecture and core features in Revit. So when you're using Revit and you press F1, that's the content I deliver. So I work with the user community and our development teams to design content and learning experiences to enhance the user experience of Revit.
And Jeff, when we talked about this webinar, I asked you to put together a list of ways Revit has evolved significantly in the last handful of releases. Now here is that list. Now let's start getting into it by talking about performance.
Yeah, so you experience performance every time you're using Revit, right? So our development team, they work really hard in the background, working on the performance enhancements to just overall improve your experience while using the software. Whether you see that or not in a feature, it's happening. And so we're trying to keep your teams productive and on task, not waiting for Revit. And we're improving things like the list you see here on the slide. But in summary, really, when we're working on improvement or on performance improvements, we're working on things like save and open times, navigation, printing and exporting your project, and then optimizing graphics for while you're working in a view or while you're generating views. So over the past few releases, Revit's consistently performed better and better on standard benchmark tests in all of these areas. So when you add up all of these little things that we've done for performance over time, it really ends up being quite a lot. And in the end, really, you're not waiting for Revit anymore. Revit is waiting for you.
Yeah, and that's great news for everyone using Revit. What else made your list, Jeff?
Yeah, so another set of things to talk about are really kind of the new revamped tool sets that we have. So I'll start off with some of the modeling tools that have been changed and altered around walls we can do slanted and tapered walls or display just the core of a wall, for example, or shape editing on things like floors and roofs and the new topo solid element, which we're going to hear about later. And then there's also tools for modeling rebar and detailing rebar. And then there's enhanced part behaviors for MEP. So, for example, the ability to do phasing with MEP parts. And then some other tools like sheet layout tools, placing views, swapping views, getting those sheets ready for production, and then tag and annotation improvements to change that workflow. And then you don't want to forget about new tools that we have as well. Things like generative design that has come out in the last few releases. Or for analysis, we have path of travel and carbon insight to talk about embodied carbon within your projects.
And I'd add to your list, Jeff, here that many of these ideas we see coming from Revit ideas. So we see them fueled and feeded from the community. And I wanted to take a minute just to talk about recent releases and how community ideas have been central to them. So 330 community ideas since 2016, 31,000 community votes. You can see the list of top 5 implemented ideas. I know for many folks, some of these were a long time coming. And we're liking the feedback we see related to Revit 2024. In particular, we've seen improvements in CSAT over the last couple of releases, customer satisfaction. So we're really making a lot of progress here. We have a lot of momentum with the way Revit is improving. Now, Jeff, I want to get to the next item on your list, which is data and connections.
Yeah, so to make things easier to work across broad teams and geographies, time zones, we've really made some significant changes in making Revit more open and more integrated with applications that you're already using. And we've expanded upon capabilities with new tools like data exchanges, SpaceMaker, Twinmotion, Autodesk, Docs, IFC. The list really goes on and on things that we're doing to make it possible to work across teams easier.
And we know we have to evolve that way, Jeff. We see the need from our customers for more open workflows and a more open approach to navigating the AEC software ecosystem. So let's wrap it up by diving into the details. What are you seeing when it comes to the core design to documentation functionality of Revit that's improving recently?
Yeah, so going right down into the details, I've talked about some of the bigger things, but of course there's the details. And so there's these small details that are kind of quality of life while you're working within Revit, right? That you'll discover in recent versions that we've had. So things such as UI modernizations, like the dark theme, or improved icons and better interactions overall. And you'll find search in many dialogues or within the project browser to find what you're looking for faster inside of your projects. We've standardized dialogues and made them resizable so you can customize your experience. We've added tools like Measure in 3D, and then we've introduced more taggable and cuttable categories that we didn't have before. And then one of my favorites is Revit Home, that kind of brings everything you need for that collaboration into one place and brings it closer to you. And it includes one of my favorites, which is My Insights, which is a new item that we think is going to support customers' desires to kind of optimize the way they work in Revit by providing tips and tricks and insights based on the way they use Revit.
Jeff, thank you so much. Really appreciate you coming on and sharing this with us. Jeff writes a Have You Tried article for the blog, the Revit blog, which you can find monthly. And you, as Jeff said, you can also check out the product help to see the documentation of all of what's new over the, not just Revit 24, but many releases. So thank you, Jeff. And with that, I want to get to what I think everyone's been waiting for, which is what's new. As we dive in, just a couple of notes. Our friends at Twinmotion have a new release, 23.1. We encourage you to go check that out on their blog. We'll put a link into the chat as well. And then with that, I want to get out of the way and bring up the stars of the show, our technical marketing crew. So Philippe Lanoux, can I call you up?
Yes, thank you, David. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Okay, so let's start with what's new for everyone in Revit 2024. So in Revit 2024, we are introducing My Insights, which gives you information about how you are using Revit on a daily basis. So this is available on the Revit home screen under a new My Insights tab. And My Insights provides information, recommendations, suggestions for how you can optimize and save time when completing design tasks and make your work in Revit more effective. So this information is represented with inside cards. You can react to these cards, and you can also click the Learn More button to get access to additional online content. As you can see, you find My Insights tab on the bottom left corner of the home page. And from there, you can access a dashboard with commands that you are mainly using in Revit. You can react to cards, and you can click also the Learn More button to get access to additional content online. So now Revit supports the dark theme for first-level user interface, including Properties Palette, Project Browser, Option Bar, Status Bar, View Control Bar. So you can also set the drawing area theme from the ribbon, but also in the Options dialog, where you can configure if you want to see a dark or light mode. The dark theme is also implemented with redesigned icons for both light and dark themes. As you can see, if you go to File, Options, you will see here under Colors tab, new settings to define the theme as dark or light. Once this is done, you can also change afterwards the canvas theme to dark or light from the ribbon. So in Revit 2024, we have also new sample models and new project templates. So the sample project is a mixed-use project incorporating commercial, residential, and retail. And the project is distributed across several Revit models in keeping with industry standard best practices. So if you wish to open the entire project, you can open each model individually, or you can link them all together. The models included are architectural, site, structural, MEP, and also a point cloud RCP file. So the goals of these models were simple. Create a compelling sample project that was both interesting from the architectural and engineering perspectives and showcase many of the most commonly used features in Revit. And we have also new project templates with a new Imperial and metric English template, which are included with the standard installation. So if you want to find the templates, the samples, just go to the samples folder. You have a cover sheet which shows the project in details. You can see how it looks like here in Twinmotion for Revit. And with those projects, you have access to many 3D views, 2D views, documentation, schedules. You can find here also the point cloud file that has been used to create the facades. And you can see how the structural and the MEP models look like. The project browser has been modernized. We have a search function which is now available at the top of the project browser. So as you type in the search box, the project browser shows all the entries of that search term only. So this is very useful because when you have a Revit project which may contain hundreds or even thousands of views, sheets, schedules, families listed in the project browser. Just to show you how it works, let's take an example. If I type, for example, L2, I can see very quickly views, sheets, families, which contains this word in the Project Explorer. Another example with kitchen, so it really helps finding the right content in the project browser. So in previous releases of Revit, it was possible to link a Naviswork file from your local machine to help coordinate in 3D. In Revit 2024, the new link coordination model feature with files hosted on Autodesk Docs makes it easier for project team to evolve work together. So you can keep project files light and your work in sync with other collaborators. You can link directly into Revit models and views from any of the 60 plus file formats that Autodesk Construction Cloud supports with Autodesk Docs. And you can underlay also the coordination model as a visual reference when designing in Revit. And good to know, you can now link different versions of Revit models hosted on Autodesk Docs for coordination. You can view the properties also of individual objects from coordination model. So you just have to select one of the individual connection objects with tab, and you will get properties of this object being displayed in the properties palette. You can also snap to points of coordination model. So this is controlled by a new Snap to Coordination Models option located here in the Snaps dialog box. As an example, you can use a measure tool to get a distance between one object of your Revit project and another object from the coordination model. So as you can see, if you go to Coordination Model, Autodesk Docs, you can navigate through your folder. You see a lot of file formats which are hosted here on Autodesk Docs. We can, for example, use the one from the structural team. So either we will link it to the entire model or just a view, for example, just a lever. And as you can see in all views here in my Revit project, I get now this coordination model, which is linked. I can select one of those objects and get access to its properties. And I can snap. And as an example, I can, with a measure tool, get a distance between this object from the coordination model and the wall which was part of my Revit project. Link and import PDF files is now available also for our Revit LT users. So you can use PDF files as a background in a floor plan, for example, or use it to trace existing conditions. And Revit will snap to PDF lines if vectors are embedded in this PDF file. Now let's talk a little bit about documentation. So in previous releases, you had to place views onto sheets one at a time. In Revit 2024, you can place multiple views and sheets and schedules on a sheet in the drawing area at the same time, for example, with the drag and drop functionality from the project browser. The Move View Align to Sheet command has been introduced in the latest release. And in Revit 2024, it has been enhanced and generalized to move align to sheet and expanded to support moving views, schedules, panel schedules, detail groups, and many more. So now you can easily move multiple elements between sheets while keeping their original positions. We have now this open sheet command, which is available in the contextual menu, which means you can open a sheet directly from the drawing area. If you select multiple views or have a view on multiple sheets, a confirmation dialog gets displayed with the number of sheets that will be open. And you can now create a schedule of revision clouds. So a new revision clouds category is available for schedules. You can use fields not only from the revision clouds, but also from revisions, views, and sheets to create your schedule. So let's see how we can place multiple views and schedules on a sheet one at a time. You see, much easier now to create your documentation. You can move views, schedules, image from a sheet to another one, and you get them aligned. You can select a view on the drawing area and with a right click opens the sheet where this view is located. And you can create a schedule of revision clouds. You can select the fields you want to display on this schedule, and you can get something like that. And with that, I will hand it over to Cesar for the next part. Thank you.
Thanks, Philippe. Welcome, everyone. It is exciting to see the variety of new capabilities and enhancements for everyone. Let's now take a look at what's on stake for architects this year, and in particular for landscape architects. New color book browser. This replaces how you can select colors. We have improved the access to Pantone and RAL colors and make it easier to add custom-made color books. Use the Autodesk Color Book Editor to create your custom color book files. This is a web app available under the link display on the screen, and it's been around for several years already. You can apply consistent corporate or branded color palettes in Revit by placing a .acb file under the file path C Program Data Autodesk Revit 2024 color books. Revit 2024 introduces a new visual style in response to our customer ideas. Use the new textures visual styles to apply the texture of render materials without lighting effects. This style maintains a consistent appearance of textures in this scene so that materials are always displayed the same way no matter how it's oriented to the light source. This style expands your ability to create impactful representations. The Solar Study user interface received several enhancements this year. Now you can access the sun settings dialog directly from the ribbon. Single-day solar studies reveal time intervals down to seconds. You can choose between 15, 30, 45, or 60-second intervals. Also, the sun path is now both accessible and editable in perspective views. Last year, we announced the release of Twinmotion for Revit, which makes Twinmotion available at no cost to all our Revit and AEC collection subscribers. This year, the AutoSync functionality has been added to the Twinmotion Revit add-in. AutoSyncs support automatic synchronization of changes between Revit and Twinmotion. A 3D view needs to be active in order to enable AutoSync. All visible geometry in Revit will be automatically kept in sync with a view in Twinmotion. Expedite your rendering updates and create better visualization with the AutoSync functionality of the Twinmotion add-in for Revit. One of the highest anticipated capabilities in 2024 is the introduction of the new site design tools. Welcome TopoSolids. TopoSolids are a new category of families built as solid geometries. It has instance and type parameters, and it can represent a diverse type of surface sections. For example, you can use different types to represent roads, sidewalks, soil infills, grade slabs, spore fields, water bodies, etc. Each type can be represented by different compound layers or different contour line representations. TopoSolids can be set up as room-bound elements suitable for open space programming. The instance properties of TopoSolids report a variety of dimensional parameters, including slope, perimeter, area, volume, elevation, thickness, among others. So let's take a look on how TopoSolids can help you improve your design documentation. The new reorganized icons under the Massing and Site tab reflect the new site design capabilities. There are two methods to create a TopoSolid: sketch the boundary and define elevation points, or two, create it from an import file, either by a CAD import or a point file in CSV format. TopoSolids replaced the TopoSurface functionality in previous releases, and now they are represented as a solid geometry. TopoSurfaces upgraded from previous versions can be converted into TopoSolids with the Generate TopoSolid contextual tool. You can still access the legacy TopoSurface settings. Link topography generated from Civil 3D and hosted in Autodesk Docs will be automatically converted into a TopoSolid, and the property line data settings is now available as a standalone drop-down panel. Subdivisions. A subdivision is an offset region derived from a TopoSolid. For example, you can use a subdivision to draw parking lots, roads, islands in a TopoSolid. Use the instance properties of a subdivision to apply a different material. The subdivision is positively offset from the original surface and must have a thickness larger than 0. The inherit contour toggle will display contours over the parent TopoSolid of the subdivision surface. Boolean operations. Boolean paths are now retired, but existing paths in upgraded models can still be edited, but you won't be able to create new ones. To represent an excavation or a tunnel, cut the TopoSolid using in-place void mass families. In addition, you can cut a TopoSolid with elements of other categories, including other TopoSolids, ceilings, floor, slab edges, roof, fascias, gutter, soffits, structural foundation, walls, and wall sweeps. Split. Use the split tool to split a TopoSolid into separate elements, using sketch lines as the cutting edges. Annotations such as spot elevations and dimensions will remain in place after the split operation. The split portion of the largest volume will inherit the original element ID. Subdivisions will be preserved if the split line crosses it, otherwise it will be deleted. Graded regions. Apply cut and fill volume analysis to TopoSolids using graded regions. The grading functionality is technically very similar to the legacy method. The grading tool marks an existing TopoSolid as demolished and makes a copy with a matching boundary in the current phase. Grade your topography using the point shape editor where you can add, delete, or change the elevation points. Report cut and fill volumes of a graded region with a TopoSolid schedule. You can preview the display of TopoSolid control points during the pre-highlight and selection. The toggle is available as a drop-down panel in the Shape Editing tool. All the control points will be accessible when you modify and edit the TopoSolid. Turn it off to reduce the risk of performance issues of very, very large TopoSolids. Use the Align tool to align surface pattern on shape-edited elements, including toposurface subdivisions, floor, slabs, and roof. Use the options on the Contextual tab to specify whether the alignment apply across the entire surface or only to the face where the pattern line is selected. Note that patterns will still appear distorted on non-flat surfaces. There are more capabilities to TopoSolid that I can speak today. TopoSolid can host elements from the categories of railing, site, parking, and any floor-based element. Slab edge families can be applied to TopoSolid boundaries. This is, however, only available to flat topography at the moment. And for developers, Revit 2024 added APIs for TopoSolid-related functions, allowing third-party developer to explore what's possible beyond what's provided out of the box. The bottom line, the new site design capabilities built around TopoSolid will really help you improve the design quality and documentation of your site design. I cannot wait to see what our customers will deliver using these new capabilities. Now let's look at the new features in structural realm with Tomek.
Thanks, Cesar. So, for structural engineers, as in the previous release, the focus remains on the workflows and toolsets with the analytical modeling process. Also, structural engineers and rebar detailers have new capabilities for creating, scheduling, and documenting rebar. Let me begin with the new features and updates for concrete detailing. Preparing the reinforcement drawings is an important task in the rebar detailing process. Reinforcement drawings are execution drawings that represent the reinforcing bars to be laid in the concrete. They serve as a means of communication between the designer and the contractor. With Revit 2024, you can now add bending details to your reinforcement drawings to create accurate bar bending and installation instructions. Bending details are created as true vector geometry and will automatically update and change if the host rebar is modified. Bending details can be placed in views by selecting the reinforcement bar and then selecting the bending detail command from the context ribbon. The detail can then be placed in a free location, or you can use the align to bar command to keep the detail orthogonal. The bending detail is driven by standard Revit type properties, allowing you to have multiple types that you can use in different situations. The bending details also make use of Revit dimension styles, so we can set up a couple of dimension styles to support the bending details tool. You can also configure the amount of detail that is displayed within the bending detail. For example, you could simply show the segment length dimensions or recover all the dimensions and angles for each segment, as well as hooks and linear dimensions. There are also a few options around the unfolding or offsetting of bending details. When you have shapes such as links, stirrups that overlap, it could be confusing when showing lengths and angles of the hooks. Revit 2024 allows the bending details types to have either standard, unfold, or offset. The bending details can also be used in schedules, which is especially useful for non-standard shapecodes. However, it is worth noting that in many regions and countries, shapecodes and bending details are always shown and required in the schedule. regardless of whether the rebar is standard or non-standard. You can choose between showing the rebar shape parameter names or the actual values of segment lengths. Similarly to images, bending details are only visible when the schedule is placed on a sheet. You can now resize all the rows in a schedule placed on a sheet to clearly represent its contents, including text, images, or graphics. This applies not only to rebar schedules. All these documentation features allow rebar detailers to create comprehensive rebar drawings according to very frequent industry practices. When it comes to free-form rebar modeling in Revit, now you can choose how to align the bars in the rebar set, and also you can make the bars in the set to be parallel to the planar face selected in the align close constraint. You can set the alignment options for freeform rebar sets using the bar and alignment parameter in the properties palette of the structural rebar, or by using the in-canvas toggle. You can also toggle the stirrup orientation for the aligned distribution by pressing spacebar. This applies only for the closed stirrup in the set. The ability to easily control the stirrup orientation for aligned freeform rebar along with these new aligned options for freeform rebar increases the versatility of 3D rebar modeling and helps you define accurate reinforcement for standard and non-standard shapes of concrete elements. Okay, now let's move on to the structural analytical modeling. In previous releases, loads were divided into two groups. We had hosted loads and non-hosted loads. Non-hosted loads could be point, line, or area loads, but they would not update automatically and had to be recreated when the analytical model was updated. Additionally, placing point loads in precise locations was extremely difficult and had to be done in plan views with work planes. In the Revit 2024, the loads have been simplified and significantly improved. Now we have hosted loads only. Each load type comes with distinct options to help when placing the load onto the analytical element. Let's have a look. Now you can apply hosted loads to specific areas of panels and members. Planar loads can be applied to user-defined sketch areas of analytical panels. You can now also copy loads to other hosts easily. Linear loads can be applied to specific segments of analytical members' lengths and analytical panels. Point loads can be placed anywhere on their hosts. This more versatile and accurate definition of structural loads improve analytical modeling flexibility in Revit. Structural area loads can now be presented using color coding to differentiate between load natures, load cases, or values, resulting in clearer documentation of the analytical model. The visibility of loads can also be controlled with view filters, enabling the creation of parametric flow loading plans, something that many users have previously achieved using filter regions. When working with loads, the scale now can be controlled via the structural settings dialog box. Here you can set the minimum and maximum load value and set the actual length of the arrows. This is useful to visually check load magnitude. Now you can create multiple associations between structural elements to better coordinate updates across the physical and the analytical models. You can now associate multiple analytical panels or members to a single physical object, or vice versa. For example, you can use several analytical panels to present a single physical floor, or associate several beams to a single multi-span analytical member. To create an association between two analytical elements and a single physical element, you first need to select the first analytical model. Next, you should run the add association command from the ribbon panel and select the second element. Finally, you can select the associated physical element with these two analytical elements. And once you have completed these steps, you can select the physical element and click Highlight Association to review the two associated analytical elements, which will be highlighted. As Revit is currently recommended as central to physical and analytical model coordination, and its analytical model geometry can be accurate and fully versatile, the nature of the Revit robot interoperability was adjusted. A true bidirectional geometrical exchange is focused on the analytical model and its material and section properties. As you have already heard, the Revit 2024 release introduced a new way of defining structural loads. The new load definition is fully transferred to robot structural analysis professional software. Other improvements I would like to highlight, we have enabled the transfer of analytical panels created by extrusion in Revit. We have enabled the assignment of the default steel design type in robot when transferred from Revit based on the analytical member structural role defined in Revit. You can also transfer arc members from Revit to robots, and there are more updates like that. The enhanced link between Revit and robot better supports BIM-centric structure analysis workflows. And with that, I would like to hand out to Michael for MEP updates.
So thanks, Tomek. Let's have a look into how Revit 2024's MEP features help to reduce the environmental impact and overall design time by narrowing the design, engineering, and fabrication capabilities. In Revit 2024, you have access to additional elevation parameters to control the visibility of MEP components in your views. These improvements to elevation parameters will help you document for installation on sloped MEP segments more efficiently. Revit 2024 has wall thickness as a built-in parameter for pipes. This wall thickness parameter is available for pipe tagging and scheduling. You can also use this wall thickness parameters in view filters to control the appearance of pipes in a view. The pipe thickness is automatically derived from the design pipe's outer and inner diameter. With that, you can easily create documentation for pipes based on the information available in the model. In previous releases of Revit, the insulation remained visible when hiding duct and pipe with insulation. In Revit 2024, the insulation gets hidden regardless the method you use to hide the insulation on duct or pipe elements. This gives a more predictable behavior when hiding ducts and pipes, including their fittings and accessories. To integrate design and fabrication workflows, network-based calculations for flow and pressure drop are available for design ductwork. Use the Networks tab in the Mechanical Settings dialog to enable the calculation engine for ductwork. When enabled, calculations run in the background, so you can continue to keep working. Now we apply the same behavior to ducts like you're used to when working with closed hydronic networks. This feature introduces more integrated design and fabrication workflows for mechanical engineers. New capabilities for energy analysis provide workflow simplification, especially when working with linked architectural models. 3D views can now be chosen to more selectively define what elements are used in the energy analytical model creation. This improves the accuracy of your energy analytical model, as well as it speeds up the model creation. You can use a 3D view template to have your 3D view predefined for generating the analytical model quicker than ever. A new MEP fabrication ductwork stiffener command is available under the System tab. This command enables manual placement of loaded stiffener families. Currently, stiffener families can be placed and hosted onto straight segments of fabrication ductwork. After placement, the hosted stiffeners instances will move and resize with the duct segments as users make modifications. Revit 2024 comes with typical ancillary framing families used to construct duct stiffeners, including angle irons, struts, rods, angle rings, and more. You can create a schedule with MEP fabrication ductwork stiffener embedded into a fabrication ductwork schedule. When you export the fabrication ductwork in a project to a MHE file, whole information will be generated based on internal stiffeners locations and shared subcomponents. This allows to generate more accurate cut patterns in legacy fabrication products such as CamDuct. For connecting the design and detailing processes of mechanical systems, flow and pressure drop calculations have been added to fabrication elements. You can use the Fluids tab in the Fabrication Settings dialog to specify a fluid and temperature for each fabrication service. For example, setting the fluid to air will apply the density and dynamic viscosity from duct settings. The roughness parameter has been added to straight elements and is visible in the Properties palette. Pipe and duct calculations run in the background so you can continue to keep working. The results may be used to size straight elements. This enhanced functionality helps preserve design information into the handoff from design to fabrication, improving collaboration and model iteration, and delivering more realistic connectivity throughout the workflow. Demand factors now apply to analytical loads. Demand loads and demand currents are calculated for each electrical analytical component and displayed in the system browser. For each load classification, total connected and demand load is schedulable in units of power and current. These evolving capabilities for electrical analysis supports electrical engineers looking to reduce overall design time and improve quality when working in BIM. And Revit 2024 also enhances electrical load analysis capabilities, first introduced for electrical engineers in Revit 2023. Engineers can now manage load sets for non-coincident backup equipment loads. Use the system browser to assign loads to a load set and specify standby quantities to better quantify and document impacts to total demand loads. These evolving capabilities for electrical analysis support electrical engineers looking to reduce overall design time and improve quality when working with BIM. And with that, I hand it back to David.
Thank you, Michael. Many powerful enhancements in 2024. Can we give a recognition for our technical team for putting together that presentation? They really have not a lot of time to put together a lot of content. So we really want to appreciate Tomek and Michael and Cesar and Philippe. Thank you, gentlemen. Very much appreciated. And now we are moving ahead to the last 10 minutes, the final part of our show here. We want to thank you all again for coming to join us today. We've got one more part of the program to get to. I'm going to bring up Revit Community Manager Kimberly Furman to tell us about updates from the community. But first, one final poll question. Rima, if you can launch, it's already up there. If you're interested in speaking in your local language with an Autodesk representative about purchasing options, we are going ahead and giving you those options there. So please do go ahead and indicate your preference. And with that, I want to bring up Kimberly Furman to talk about what's next. And if you would just excuse me a moment while I ensure I have all the proper controls. I think we're set now. Kimberly, do I have you?
I'm here.
Great to see you, Kimberly.
Yeah, I still have the poll showing. Can I just click end poll, or are we good to go?
Let's keep it rolling for a little bit longer.
Okay. I'll just minimize it. How about that?
Sounds
and
good.
Hopefully I have remote control.
You do.
I
It looks
do.
like you're
Look at
ready to
that.
go. And so you're going
That's
to give us an
fantastic.
update from the Revit community team. I'm
I
excited.
am. Absolutely. Thank you, David. We are so excited about our customers getting their hands on this release. But of course, our work is never finished. So I want to talk to you briefly about ways that you can track our progress in Revit development and also get involved in shaping the future of Revit. And so the first thing I have for you is a revamped public roadmap. These are a lot of fun. Let's see if my clicker is working. So with the public roadmap, you can go right to our blogs, our Revit blog, and David has put that, or Grima has put that link in the chat. And so as you scroll down, you can see, first of all, our safe harbor statement, because of course we can't make any promises, but we do want to show you what our plans are. So we have separate sections for each discipline, and at the top of each section you can see that this is a basic kind of timeline for our development. So we have in progress, up next, later, launched, and the ever popular not now, but you can see why on those tabs. Each card you can click on for additional information, and as you scroll down you'll see that there is also opportunity for you to rate how important this feature is to you, whether it's not important at all or whether it is critical to your work progress. So you can give us additional feedback there. Once you click those buttons, you can give us actually some comments on why that's important to you. And so again, with each of these, as you scroll down, you'll see the different disciplines, and these are being continually updated by our product teams. They are continually being monitored by our product teams for your feedback and comments. So feel free to explore those and add additional feedback for us. We love your feedback. We really do. Okay, and as we go on, hopefully, I think I can click through this. All right. So after the roadmap, we also have what is called our preview release. And if you want to get more in depth into what is happening in product development, you can head over to the preview release and apply to join to have early access to the beta software. You'll be able to test new features and tool sets in Revit. This application does require a signed non-disclosure agreement, and we have found that preview users really value more direct interaction with our product team members and reap the benefits of better planning for future releases. Being a part of the Revit preview release also provides opportunity to participate in inside the factory events, and that will bring me to my next slide. So upcoming events that you can become involved in our community, of course, we have our Inside the Factory online event coming up toward the end of May. Look for more information there in the Revit preview release, and we will also put those out on social media. I'm really excited about the Inside the Factory live event. If you've never been to one of these, this is really a lot of fun. It's a great way to meet the product team in person and spend a week in one of our Autodesk offices testing Revit software. Those are coming up in October. There will be one in Boston and I believe one in Bucharest if you're interested in those. These are very select events. We have a small group of customers come in and spend the week with our teams testing software. A lot of fun, and you get to learn a lot more about how Revit is developed. Of course, our preview release that we just talked about, and coming up toward the end of May or June, we're going to have more specific Ask Me Anything sessions with our product managers. So we had so many questions today, and we thank you for your questions, but this was not really a question and answer session. So we're going to have Ask Me Anything sessions coming up so that we can get to those specific questions that you have on our public roadmaps. And with that, I'm going to hand it back over to David.
Thank you very much, Kimberly, and great updates. Great to see all the activity happening behind the scenes. So we have about 5 minutes left. I want to leave you with some next steps. For those, it sounded like we have some folks who are new to Revit. So please, we encourage you to start a Revit trial. Also, if you're maybe just looking to kick the tires on Revit 24, you can do that through the Revit trial as well. We'll be sending you a recording of this webinar that please share that with your colleagues, share it with your friends. We trust that you know the right people to share it with. So we want to encourage you to do that. And then you can connect with Autodesk. Go to autodesk.com, or if you have a sales rep, please reach out to them, or an account rep. And with that, I see, Cesar, you've asked to answer one of the questions live. Is that that's something you want to take on? Maybe we have time for one question.
Yeah, I think there was a question about why was it better to use coordination models versus just Revit links? And I think the answer is that you really expand your ability to link plus 70 file formats in Revit, and allowing a lot of non-Revit users on the field to provide shop drawings or working documents that are not Revit based, be part of the coordination ecosystem within Revit. That's one of the reasons. With this version, we really expand our ability to work in sync with people on the shops.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. And, I think this is also indicative of the way in which cloud and desktop workflows are becoming more integrated, more in sync. If you are curious about more of that, about the future of cloud at Autodesk, we do want to invite you to the Autodesk Forma launch event on May 8th. Rima, maybe if you could get that one in the chat one more time. We're going to be talking about the road ahead for Forma. We'll have some guest speakers, including architects who are talking about some of the challenges that they have every day in their work. We think it'll be informative. We think it'll be really useful. Please join us. Yeah, registration, it's free, of course. And with that, I want to thank all of our panelists today. Great work. Really appreciated the effort put in here. And great visuals, great sharing of this release. I also want to thank everyone out in the audience. Again, we know you have a lot of things you could choose to spend an hour doing, so that you spend it with Autodesk. Checking out the new release of Revit is valuable to us. If you have any questions that you didn't get to, maybe we didn't have the right staff on to answer, you can always ask questions at revitfeedback@autodesk.com. That goes to our product group, and we're happy to try to dive in there with you. As Kimberly said, feedback is a gift. We thank you for it. And with that, thanks again. Have great days, great evenings. Happy Reviting.